from the humble abode. As you can see, people have been clamoring to have a little something in the background beyond just the national championship thing back there, and I got a little bit of a remodel in here in the office. How about that? Coming along. There's a few things I'm gonna do with the shelving back there, but we're getting there. So pretty soon we'll have some memorabilia back there. We'll have a few little things that'll catch your eye, and it won't just be a black or a blank white wall back there. So excited. If you didn't know, I'm Robbie Falk. I thank you for joining me here on Talkin Dawgs. This is mostly a weekly event that we have between myself and Mississippi State fans. Sometimes Ole Miss fans join us in here too. As long as you're not a pest, you're welcome here. Everybody's welcome here. And I thank you guys for joining. As you guys understand, this is a very, very laid back atmosphere in here. You guys can drop in comments, questions, whatever you got on your mind, and we'll talk about it. I have a little bit of a format, but not really. I just kind of map out a few things to talk about, and then we just kind of go from there. So it's kind of anti-formulaic. There's just not a whole lot of structure to it outside of, I like to talk about a couple things here and there. Today, the main topic of conversation we're really going to discuss is Mississippi State recruiting. Jeff Lebby is in his second week of official visits coming up this weekend. He had a chance to finally start to get guys on campus and show them what he's got here at Mississippi State and kind of put into action his plan as head coach. And I thought the first official visit weekend couldn't have gone much better for Mississippi State. The Bulldogs were able to pick up several commitments. They have a couple of more guys that they feel really good about, and that's going to be something that we monitor over the next few weeks. But for the most part, a outstanding first week for Jeff Lebby and his staff together recruiting for Mississippi State. And you got one more weekend coming up this weekend, and then signing day. So, but as you guys know, I mean, the transfer portal being what it is now, recruiting isn't going to stop for Mississippi State for a while. They're going to be building this roster on into the summer, the spring, the summer, all that stuff. There's a lot of recruiting left to go. But what they're trying to do right now is finish up this signing class for the high school recruits. And I'm sure there's going to be some more guys that could come in. But right now, the Bulldogs are ranked 37th, which is 13 spots up from where they were last week. They're trying to build this class up now with Jeff Lebby in place. They were able to pick up a couple of additions into the class this week, 3 to be exact. San Francisco McGee, the wide receiver out of Macomb, committed, as well as a 4-star wide receiver Mario Craver, fresh off of a state championship win for Clay Chalkville in Alabama. They won on Friday night against Saraland in a big-time win there for them. And the 5'11 speedster Mario Craver going to add a lot to the Bulldogs offense next year. He committed, and also the state got their quarterback of the class, and 4-star quarterback Michael Van Buren, who's a 4-star composite guy, was committed to Oregon. He was Jeff Lebby's guy. Jeff Lebby targeted him in the first couple of weeks of being head coach here. Van Buren immediately signed up for an official visit after decommitting from Oregon. And State has a guy that, in my opinion, compares in a lot of ways to players like Dylan Gabriel. And not a lefty like Gabriel, but a lot of the same characteristics with him. Can run this offense, I think, really well. And about the same size, 5'11", 6 feet, closing up on that. And a lot of people are concerned about the size, but when you look at players like that, if they got the ability, they can go. And I think that he can definitely run this offense. So 3 really big additions for Mississippi State, moving them up 13 spots. Not where they want to be. They're 37th right now, which is towards the bottom of the SEC. This is a program that it's used to recruiting anywhere from 25 to 30 for the most part. And I think State has a chance to end up there. This has a chance to be a pretty average Mississippi State class. Nothing below average, nothing exceptional. But I think Jeff Lebby has a chance to close strong here and then try to finish it off with some transfer portal guys to really kind of put this bow on this first class, and then really hit the ground running on 2025, which has a chance to be a good class for Jeff Lebby. So Just a few little tidbits on the class from now. And as you know, you guys can put in your questions, comments. We will discuss whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm centering this around recruiting, but if you guys want to talk about basketball or whatever, just go ahead with it. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll address a lot of your questions here. Kobe Walker with the first question of the day. Hey Robbie, have you heard about any transfer players committing? Yeah, right now Mississippi State has a guy on campus, and right now they're trying to really put together, kind of fill some holes and get some depth pieces and things like that. With players, and Kedrick Bingley Jones, the defensive tackle from North Carolina, is on campus right now. I think he's getting close to finishing up his visit. Should be going home, I think, tomorrow. And all indications are Mississippi State is on pace to land him. And, not a super impressive career for him at North Carolina, but as a guy that has been dealing with some injuries. He's got 7 tackles in his first couple of years, but like I said, he's had some injuries already. Was a player that obviously they felt good about coming out of high school, coming out of the state of North Carolina, and was a 4-star recruit, one of the top 20 defensive tackles in the country. A player that was projected to be, if he stayed on pace, a NFL guy. But he's definitely dealt with some injuries the last few years. And for Mississippi State, the ability is there. He's 6'4", 300 pounds, a player that, can plug a hole for you in the middle of the line, and an added depth piece. So that would be a decent start for Mississippi State, but they really need him to kind of live up to his high school self. And we'll see if David Turner is able to work some magic there for him. Other than that, obviously there was the 2 guys coming in this past weekend. Ethan Miner coming in from North Texas for a visit, and Jason Bell from Vanderbilt, the tight end, was also here. All indications are those visits went really well for Mississippi State. They're in good position for those players, but we haven't seen an announcement from either one of those guys, or a decision made just yet. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. But those are 2 other players to look out for. Miner is a guy that can immediately start for Mississippi State at center next year. With Cole Smith moving on now, you have a open spot right there to start in the SEC. Comes over from North Texas, has the relationship that he has with John Cooper, who's the tight end coach for Mississippi State, that was at North Texas coaching offensive line. So that is something to watch. I think Mississippi State is in good position for him right now. Other than that, not a whole lot to report on the transfer portal. State has several guys coming in this weekend from the portal. Already have confirmed the Purdue transfer, defensive lineman, Slyman Kapaka, I think says. I probably butchered that, but he's one of those guys to look out for this weekend. UTEP transfer, Kelly Athakaria. These names, why can't you just be like, Chris Jones? That was great. He's a wide receiver from UTEP. Also, Cyrus Allen coming in from La Tech, a wide receiver, is a player to watch this weekend. And I'm sure some other guys are going to be added to the list. Blake Shapen, who committed to Mississippi State. Forgot to talk about him, by the way. The Baylor quarterback committed to Mississippi State this past weekend, and he'll be in for an official visit this weekend as well. So that's a good guy to get in with these wide receivers when you're trying to add some wide receiver pieces also. So that's just a few transfer guys to look out for, and I'm sure several more will be added to the list this week. I imagine guys are going to come and go on that official visit list. Corbin Dallas, I read on the other site, we could have 2 or 3 guys who will come here if they go into the portal. Hearing any of that, and if so, what spots do they play? That's a possibility. I have heard a few names. I won't drop them just yet until we get something concrete. I don't want to speculate on guys that aren't in the portal, but I have heard a couple of names, guys that would be familiar to Mississippi State, that Mississippi State recruited in high school, that the Bulldogs would have a good shot at if they enter the portal. One of them on defense, one of them on offense. So definitely, I'm watching that for both of those guys. I've talked to a couple of different sources today on that after hearing some news earlier, and that is something to watch. And I don't mean to be coy on that. I don't mean to say I know something you don't know, but it's rumors and speculation until you get something concrete on it. And I don't want to speculate or start a rumor mill here when it's attached to my name. So I'll just say that I've heard enough from people that I trust that I feel like it's a possibility for some of these people, and we will certainly keep you up to speed on that when that happens. And I can tell you, when these names do enter the portal, if they do enter the portal, I feel very good about Mississippi State's shot with those players. So definitely something to watch. And that's the thing with the portal is we look at the names that are out there right now and we just think Mississippi State's going to have to scramble or time's running out. There's going to be constantly people jumping in the transfer portal. There's constantly guys coming in that you're going to have a shot at. So the chances of Mississippi State landing players are only going to grow as the fall continues, and then getting into the spring as well. There's going to be another portal opening then. Whenever guys don't win the job in the spring, get around April or whatever, there's another group that's going to be coming in then. So just something to monitor. Any movement with the MSU logo, or is that pretty much pointless? Yeah, I haven't heard anything of substance on that with the interlocking. I do know that Mississippi State is planning to just completely transition, I think, out of the banner. It's obvious they're pushing that out as much as they possibly can at this point. We're seeing a huge push for the state script. It's basically on everything now, football related, basketball as well. So I think you're going to see that a lot more prominently. Next year, I think you're going to see the stacked Mississippi State a lot more with basketball. They're going to transition out the regular uniforms they have now. So I think what you're seeing is a transition in the logo. I don't know if that's going to include the interlocking MSU or not. I haven't heard anything concrete on that. I would be surprised at this point if they take it off the shelves. That was one of the main things mentioned initially, is bring the interlocking back for the 1998 25-year deal, have it on the shelves for a year and then move on from it. I think it's going to still be produced. I don't anticipate that being pushed back into the vault right now, but that could change. But as far as it being on the helmets, I would think it'd be awesome to bring it back full time. I don't know if that has been confirmed or if it's even a possibility right now. Matthew Hearn, what are our defensive needs in the portal? Pretty much everywhere, man. They really need a difference maker on the defensive line as an edge rusher. They need a guy like that badly. They were missing that this year. So somebody needs to step up there. I like their pieces on the defensive line and the younger classes. I'm not really as down on that group as some people are, because you have in the last class you had Jonathan Davis, who really emerged late in the process. That is a young Mississippi recruit that I think is going to be really good in the middle. Calvin Dinkins and Travion Williams, I think, would have changed your defensive line this year. Those two guys healthy, I think, are going to make you more formidable up front. DeMonte Russell is back at defensive end. His brother Dontarie Russell's back, who was one of State's better speed rushers last year, and he'll be utilized some as well. I'm interested to see what they do with Ty Cooper, if he's the linebacker, if he's got his hand on the ground. So they have some young pieces there. It's just not really proven with a lot of these guys, and that's what's kind of scary about it. But they definitely need an edge rusher, I think, and probably a couple more pieces there on the defensive line. You need a couple linebackers. You don't feel great about their linebackers from an experience standpoint, losing Buki Watson and Jet Johnson. And then you add in Deshaun Page, who started most of the year. didn't have a great season, but that's still a starter that's out. So they need somebody to step up there. Cornerback, you just lost to Carlos Nicholson to the transfer portal. We don't know what's going to happen with Decameron Richardson. You got to get some cornerbacks. You got to get some safeties. It's every position. State's got to have upgrades at every position next year. And there's some young guys that are going to step up, and their time is now, and they're going to have to be big, but it still is a concern on the defensive side of the ball. What returners could be starters on defense? Well, DeMonte Russell, I think, is going to have a locked-in spot, you would think, the defensive line. I think that Travion Williams is probably going to be starting at the spot where Jaden Crumedy was at defensive tackle, and then at nose tackle, Calvin Dinkins looks like a guy that could slide in there. I really think it would have been huge for those guys to get those reps this year, and they just didn't. It's tough to lose those players. I don't know what's going to happen to linebacker. J.P. Purvis is an experienced player, didn't have a great year this year, but he could be a guy that starts there. It just depends on who comes back at cornerback. I mean, if Decameron Richardson is back, it's probably Decameron Richardson and Bryce Pollock. And both those guys played as many reps as anybody this year at corner. And then safety, you lost Corey Ellington. You've lost Sean Preston. Isaac Smith's probably going to be one of your starters back there at safety. You lost Marcus Banks. I just don't know. I don't know what it looks like. It's too early. Thanks for checking in, Winston. Glad to have you here. Oh, the random Yoda, where can I look to see where transfers are visiting? I can only find normal recruits. Somebody is, I'm not sure who's updating that, but, whenever guys get confirmed, I'm sure those official visits will be listed on there. I don't know if that includes transfers on there or not. It's such a tricky deal. Looking through here, it looks like they didn't have transfers on the last week's official visit list this week. No, just JUCO guys. I don't know. Hopefully we'll have a full list for you later in the week. C. Lee, how do you think Creed will fit into the new offense? I think he'll be great. I think he's going to probably start for you at the slot with Tulu moving on to the NFL. I think he's going to be really good. I think he can fit in just about any offense, wide receiver. I'm excited about him. Really good player that I think should have had more playing time this year. Colby Rushing. I see a lot of other teams getting commitments from the transfer portal, and we only have one. Do you think it will pick up here soon? Yeah, guys, you're going to have to be patient with this. It's just going to be a process. And Mississippi State was not going to come in and just immediately start getting, everybody out of the portal. It's a process. They're filling everybody out right now. They're visiting guys. They're trying to get guys to campus. I know it sucks, but just got to be patient. They got several guys coming in this weekend, like I said, from the portal. Hopefully you can get some decisions from them, but it's going to be a long-term thing for Mississippi State. They're going to have to really work on some guys to get them here because you have a team that's 5-7 last year. You're in kind of a rebuilding mode. You got a new head coach that a lot of people know as an offensive coordinator, but they don't really know about him as a head coach because he's never been one. So it's going to take, to me, I think, to really get some traction in the portal moving forward, it's going to take results on the field as a head coach. You're going to have to show that you can do it as a head coach. I think it's going to take some time for Jeff Lebby. But I do think they'll get some guys out the portal. I don't think it's going to be a ton of difference makers like a lot of people are expecting. Winston, what's the path someone has to take to be able to talk and write about sports every day like you do? Well, it's just a lot of experience, man. I started off in media relations, at Mississippi State. Did a lot of writing there, and you're around people that in that department that can help you with your writing and really kind of guide you. I didn't go into journalism. I took a couple of journalism classes, but that wasn't going to be my field. I was going to go in public relations. But I mean, what you do is, when I was in college, I was taking on a lot of writing jobs. I did football broadcasts on the radio and on TV for a while to kind of get talking chops up. And basically, I just did anything that I could do to get experience. That's the biggest thing about this, is getting experience in the field and getting to know people, and just writing on the job, covering games, things like that. And it just kind of happened. Doors open. You jump on opportunities when you get them, and you don't tell people no. That's how I operated, and I still operate that way. I do a lot of stuff that I mean, nothing's beneath me. I do 2 local papers every week, weekly papers that I cover 4 different schools. Cover Mississippi State and high school sports for the Starkville Daily News. I've had that job for a while. I do Associated Press. I do podcasts. I do this. I just try to do as much as possible, and I think that's the best advice I can give. Is, if you got an opportunity, take it, and don't turn people down. For any opportunity to get publication, do it. Is that Coy Van? What do you think about the new offer to the corner from Florida? I like him. Florida Atlantic kid, Elijah Cannon. Another. I think it's good to get these guys in here that can help you kind of build some depth. I was going to look at what his relationship, obviously, it goes back to Mississippi State's connections now in the state of Florida with their new defensive back, or the new cornerbacks coach. And Elijah Cannon, I love how long the kid is. Watched his film a little bit today. I mean, there's a little bit of Jonathan Banks in there. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with the comparisons, but it's the length of him I like. Listed at 6'1", 168, probably close to 170 at this point. And the state of Florida is so rich in defensive back recruits. I mean, I really like that state for defensive backs and wide receivers especially. And he has a couple of good offers. He just visited Oregon State, I believe. So he's a guy that's starting to kind of pick up the pace in his recruitment. Started off with a lot of Group of 5 teams. I mean, Florida Atlantic obviously is where he committed all the way back during the summer. But Oregon State offered him the other day. He's just visited there. Now he's visiting Starkville this weekend. So I like him. I think it would be a solid late ad for Mississippi State. And then also you got the other cornerback, Jaden Lewis, who was committed to Auburn for a while. He's from Anniston, Alabama, 4-star cornerback. A guy one of those guys from Alabama that Alabama and Auburn, they're like on the fence with. He was committed to Auburn, but it looks like they're going to recruit over him a little bit. I'm okay with that. There's guys like that. Bookie Watson was like that with Auburn. You had other players like that, like Errol Thompson. This guy picked up a ton of offers early on in the process. Auburn, Arkansas, Colorado, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders likes you as a cornerback. I like you. Florida State, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Louisville, Maryland, Missouri, Penn State, South Carolina, Tennessee. So obviously early in the process, people saw something from him. He's a 4-star composite, 4-star 247. Would be a really good ad. He's coming in this weekend as well. So State has a chance to close nicely with the defensive backs. And then Xavier Gayton is coming in this weekend. He's a great athlete that I think ends up at safety. You have a chance to build a strong defensive back class 2 straight years in a row, because I thought last year was really good too. That was a really good recruiting class last year, defensive backfield. Colby, are there any other high school recruits not from Mississippi that we're targeting? That was one of a couple of them that I just mentioned there. And then looking at anybody else coming in. Oh, Kylan Fox, the tight end from Grayson, which is one of the best programs in the entire country in Georgia. He's committed to UCF, and I think that Jeff Lebby likes him a lot. That would be a good get. He's a guy coming in this week. Um, Anybody else? Not really. Oh, the defensive lineman from Canada, who I'm not even gonna. I guess I can try to pronounce his name. Steve Bumoa, defensive lineman, 3-star guy that Alabama really wants. Just visited Alabama. If they want him, I think they'll get him. But has a good relationship with David Turner. David Turner's been recruiting him for a long time. That's a guy to watch. If Bama doesn't take him, then you've gotten a huge steal. So, we'll see if David Turner's able to work some of his magic this weekend. C. Lee, is the plan still for Seydou Traore to play at State in 2024? How you think he'll be used, tight end and wide receiver? Yeah, it's still the plan, and I think probably going to be flex tight end type, one that you can line up in the slot, utilize a lot like um, Jeff Lebby did with Kenny Yeboah at Ole Miss. I think he's a guy that you can use a lot like that. Basically a wide receiver, but he can play some up back. He can play attached tight end. You can move him around. He is a tight end, but those tight ends in that offense are utilized differently, and I think he can be a guy that really adds to the passing offense. Casey Renfro, is Craver faster than Tulu? I don't know. I don't know what their times are. He's definitely pretty fast track star guy. He'd be up there with Tulu for sure. Braden Parker, any update on Tolu Smith's return? Hearing good things. He's really coming along. Chris Jans told the media this week that he's going to be doing a lot of 5-on-0 work. He's going to be with the team, not taking on a lot of contact or anything like that, but he's starting to practice a little bit, which is great news. You do that in the middle of December when he was projected to be back in the middle of January. I think there's a decent shot that he can be back for the end of non-conference play. I think he's definitely going to be back for the beginning of conference play. And that's great news for Mississippi State. If you can get him back and have him playing his best basketball early into the middle part of the SEC play, you got something going there. Colby mentioned most of the guys already, but in addition to some of the players that I've mentioned, all the JUCO guys that Mississippi State have committed and several that are that they're recruiting are coming in. Ashawn Shepard, who's committed to Mississippi State, defensive lineman from EMCC. Tyler Woodard, defensive back from EMCC. Because they have their they have their national championship Wednesday night. They'll be back for that. Marcus Ross, EMCC linebacker, is going to be in town. Who else is coming in? Johnny Daniels, who just committed to Mississippi State, the running back from Colin, will be here. Jaquan Bolden should be here as well. The offensive lineman from Gulf Coast. I believe he's visited maybe Baylor so far. So that's a guy that State's trying to get in here, offensive lineman, big offensive lineman too. That guy is massive, 6'7", 350. Another Percy Lewis type. Ease for Ethan. Michael Van Buren a starter next year. Ooh, I hope not. You don't want a true freshman starting right away. That means that whatever you got out the portal didn't work. I don't think he's going to be quite ready. We saw Chris Parson as a true freshman, just wasn't ready. It's tough. That's really tough to play as a true freshman in the SEC, and especially whenever you're considering you're playing the most important position on the field, quarterback. So I think it'll help that he's in here early, but I just don't see it. I think he's a guy that you develop and you have him ready in a year or two. Heath Johnson, why is it that some athletes get listed as a 5-star on some sites and 4 stars on others? It's just the difference in networks. The valuations are different. Guys are rated differently on other sites. I've seen guys rated 3 stars on some site, like low 3 stars, and then mid-level 4 stars on other sites. It's just a difference in evaluation. Very rarely are you going to have everybody on the same page. Now, with 5 stars, most of the time, the 5 stars are usually similar across the board. There might be a couple of guys, but for the most part, I think it's going to be 5 stars or 5 stars across the board on the networks. But you got ESPN, you got On3, Rivals, 247. I mean, you got 4 major networks, and you're having to. Everybody has different opinions because it's all subjective. It's not something that's super easy to rank players. So Ty Jones, is MSU going after another quarterback in the portal? Yeah, the plan is to take 2 guys. We don't really know who that other guy is going to be, and State could be patient on it. I mean, there's going to be guys that enter, and that's definitely a fluid situation. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what their goal is, to get 2 guys. Chris Huey, does Sean Preston Jr. have another year? No, he's finished. I think he played here for 6 years. He was here for a while. So his career has ended at Mississippi State. C. Lee, I think Blake Shapen's more than capable of running the offense the way Jeff Lebby wants. The issue with Shapen is he can't stay healthy. Can he stay healthy? I agree. I think that's the big deal is he going to be able to stay healthy for a year, because he's dealt with a knee injury. I think he might have had a shoulder injury. So yeah, he has been hurt. That's been a problem for him, and you need to keep him healthy. What's up, Wes? Wesley Wright. Got 3 takes. Huge weekend for Lebby and crew. Our fans are hard to please, and the mustache is dope. I appreciate you. My mustache will never be on your level. And by the way, got a chance to catch up with your brother the other day. Good to see you guys are doing well. And I think fans are hard to please everywhere, man. It's just you have the big weekend that you have this weekend, and all of a sudden it's why aren't they getting transfer portal players? Well, you just got in the game with 2 big time guys in Stonka Burnside and Daniel Hill, and you got 3 big commitments, 2 of them 4 stars, and the focus goes back to where are the defensive players and where are the transfer portal guys. It's just hard to please everybody. Everybody's always going to be looking for that next thing, and I kind of get the concern from people too. I mean, next year has got to be. You got to have some impact guys come in from the portal to have a chance to do some big things next year. I think as it stands, it's going to be a rebuilding year for Mississippi State. But if you're able to get a couple of impact players here on offense and maybe some on defense, that changes the trajectory. So I do get it a little bit too. Todd Jones, is Shaz Preston going to enter the portal? Haven't heard. I don't know. But he hadn't played a ton at Alabama so far. Matthew Hearn, the haircut's looking nice. I appreciate that. You and Sam Purcell both liked it, and my grandmother and mother. Roro just saw a post where Saban's visiting Daniel Hill today. Yeah, I think he went to go by to see him at his school. They're still recruiting him. Tom T, I'd like to see DJU in Starkville. What are our chances? Just haven't heard a lot of smoke around him the last few days. It looks like Florida State is the team to beat with him. Yeah, I would love to see him at Mississippi State, but it just doesn't look like he's not interested in Mississippi State that much, or Mississippi State's not really pursuing him as much. I'm not sure. All right, moving on. Bryce Hall, any chance we flip some defensive guys? One of them I mentioned a while ago was Elijah Cannon out of Florida Atlantic. That's a possibility. Other than that, I don't really know. Heath, I like the stash. It's solid. Might keep it around a little bit. Tom T, when is TNL going to video? I don't know. We've talked about it before. I mean, the issue is, I guess, getting when we're in studio, getting us both on video is kind of a hassle. And then, a lot of times just when we're doing Zoom and stuff. But I don't know. I've pushed that a little bit, and we just haven't gone through with it. There's a lot of ideas I have that we just haven't really put into action. One of them we did put in action was the Catfish Tour. I'm happy we did that. Chris, really excited about the future for Creed and Seth Davis at the skill positions. Who are a couple of young linebackers or secondary guys that you think will have a bright future? Well, let's look at. I'm gonna look at the roster so I don't leave some guys out. But obviously the last few years they've had some good linebackers that they've recruited, and we're just kind of waiting to see those guys, put into action. John Lewis, been waiting on him to really emerge. I think he has a chance to do that this next year because, he's finally going to be, one of the upperclassmen in that group. Pull up some of the linebackers here and safeties. A guy that I forget about is Jacoby Albert, who transferred from Kentucky, missed all of this year. He's going to be one of the most talented guys in the secondary. Isaac Smith as well. You'll get Hunter Washington back this year, a guy that was hurt a good bit this year. At linebacker, I really like Zachary Tillman. The last staff, who I thought was really good at evaluating linebackers, they thought that this guy's the next Benardrick McKinney, which I'll take all day long. And he was a guy that really flew under the radar for the most part when we were talking about linebackers at Mississippi State. He flew under the radar. And I thought, got a little playing time this year. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Still got those guys, Khalid Moore, Avery Sledge, and Javade Gilmore. All those guys are a little similar in what they are as linebackers. None of them have really emerged yet. You need those three to emerge next year. Tobias Hinton, true freshman, I think has a chance to be really good. So they got a lot of good pieces there at linebacker. And then at cornerback, I like Bryce Pollock a lot. He got a lot of playing time this year, and I thought did some good things. Luke Evans, Kelly Jones are another two guys that I think are going to do some big things. That was a good cornerback class that they signed with Pollock, Levin, Evans, and Jones last year. I think all three of those guys have a chance to be good. So you have some good pieces in these last two classes on the defensive side of the ball. You're just waiting to see, who comes out of it and really takes that step. You just don't know yet. Lerod, 72. Why don't state players ever win any national awards? Last year it was Forbes being snubbed, and this year it was Buki. Yeah, it's lack of respect for a lot of these guys. I mean, you did have Jonathan Banks, but state had to promote out of their rear for him to win the Thorpe Award. But yeah, Buki, I thought, deserved Defensive Player of the Year in every SEC list. I think he should be first-team All-American. The year that he had hasn't really been replicated by a lot of players, and it was kind of strange. I know State didn't have a good year, but I mean, just look at the season that the guy had. It's not difficult. What up, Big Mix? Is it Big Mix or Big Mike's? Just wondering if you're hearing anything you can share on the last position of the defensive staff. I have not, man. It's really quiet. I don't know what they're going to do there. I don't know if they're waiting on somebody to finish bowl games, if they're waiting on a coach. I don't know. But it's definitely strange they haven't hired that. You have the special teams coordinator position, which I don't know if they're just going to give that to I guess they'll have to give it to somebody that has another position group, but it's just strange that we haven't seen anything transpire on that. C. Lee, any idea where State stands with Chandler Rogers? They don't appear to be recruiting him. I haven't heard a whole lot about him lately. Hail State, if we somehow end up with Daniel Hill, what position do you see him playing? State's recruiting him as a running back, and I don't think that's going to be changed. But I think his best position is linebacker, but he wants to play running back, and he's that good of an athlete. If he wants to play running back, you let him play running back, and you do what it takes to get him to school. So, Gregory Genros, the tight end, JUCO tight end that was committed to Arkansas, just decommitted. He was on campus this past weekend. Oh, and now I see your question, Jesse. That's funny. I'm just looking at Twitter and scrolled and saw your question. That's my bad, Jesse. I definitely think that State is the leader for him at this point. Got to believe that. After visiting this weekend, decommits, Dodge City Community College. State was recruiting him with the old staff. He decommitted, he committed to Arkansas, and now he's decommitted. And I assume 24 Keeling is a Arkansas fan, which, by the way, welcome. And he says that they have two tight ends coming back that are studs, so makes sense. I was going to see what he's done this year at Dodge City. Got some decent offers. Houston, Arkansas State. Guy originally from the Bronx. I'm sure that was to go from the Bronx to Dodge City was probably a little bit of a culture shock. And then coming to Starkville too. 26 catches in 2 years for 265 and 3 touchdowns. Not anything, otherworldly, but decent numbers, and a great sized kid, 6'6", 230. So it wouldn't be a bad pickup for State. Looks like they're trying to get the tight end room built up. Last year, you're talking about having Malik Ellis move from offensive line to tight end to block. Jakaris Clayton from defensive line to tight end. Ty Cooper did it in the spring. So you had a lot of guys playing out of position, and just didn't get a lot of production there. So it looks like they're trying to build that room up a little bit. Braden Parker, what are your thoughts on Woody Marks entering the portal? I kind of thought he would just go pro, but it's just him and Will are just ready for a new start. And it looks like both of them are visiting Washington this weekend. So I guess Washington's trying to start a little pipeline for Mississippi State. I imagine Dylan Johnson will probably come back for another year at this rate, and you'll have Dylan, Woody, and Will back there possibly. That'd be interesting. Jackson, is the wife jealous of the budding bromance between you and Sam Purcell? Sam was really in his feelings last night. He was happy to see me again. I was happy to see him. He has not been feeling well. Missed 2 of the last 3 games with an illness, and I was happy to see him. It was nice, and he seemed like he was in good spirits. Didn't look totally healthy, I admit. So I'm praying for him. Hope everything's okay. But he looked like he was in good spirits, and that's great. Sam's a great guy. Reggie Williams, has Antonio Harmon been moved back to wide receiver? Don't know yet. We will certainly know more about that in the spring. I would imagine he's probably still going to be a tight end. He still kind of fits that mold there in this offense, but I could be wrong. Appreciate you joining, 24. Thanks for reading, too. We'll always welcome other schools fans in here as long as they're not trolling like some people do sometimes. Is there any smoke for any other transfer quarterbacks from Tanner? Not really. It's kind of quiet. There's been a few names that have been mentioned that I just haven't really heard much about lately. So it's still up in the air. But we had no clue about Blake Shapen. Like, that was completely out of left field when he committed to Mississippi State last week. So it's important to know that too. All right. Any other questions? Get them in while you can. Alan Williams, what about running back? Haven't heard any names. I don't know if they're wanting to transfer or not. They're really pushing for Daniel Hill, so that's one thing to consider. You have the possibility of getting a 4-star athlete in here to play running back next year with what you got coming back. You're bringing back Jeffrey Pittman, Kevon Lee, Seth Davis. You're adding Johnny Daniels. What's his name? And the guy from Colin, I forget. So you got numbers there. You just don't. There's not a guy that I would say is like a true difference maker, I guess. I think Seth Davis can be, but he's going to be hurt too for the majority of the offseason. He's dealing with his knee injury that happened late in the year. So, we'll see. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go eat supper. I appreciate y'all for checking in as always. Again, if you do not subscribe to this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you do that. We are over 2,000 subscribers. That's awesome. We were trying to get it over 1,000, I think, at this point last year. So we've made a huge jump. And that's big thanks to you guys. This thing has grown and grown, and I cannot thank you enough. Just me sitting in my office here talking sports, that's what I like to do. And that's why I like to do this with you guys every now and then, just to kind of conversate and talk through some things. So I really appreciate you. I want to remind you, stay tuned over there on 247. We got plenty of stuff coming in with recruiting, official visits, transfer portal. We got coverage of basketball that's really heating up with Mississippi State men's and women's basketball and all kinds of other stuff. Listen to Thunder and Lightning 5 times a week. If you don't already, subscribe to that podcast. We'd appreciate that, and a 5-star review if you can do it. And other than that, I think I've said everything I need to say on just about everything. So I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll check back with you next week and catch you down the road.